Tutankhamun's mask is an icon. And I think part of it is because it is made of solid gold, and a lot of people get wowed by that.
When scientists finally pointed a quantum imaging scanner at King Tut's mask, they expected to confirm what X-rays had already proven. Instead, the machine revealed something that made the lead researcher drop his coffee and go pale. Hidden beneath the golden surface was a name, a different name, one that had been deliberately erased over 3,000 years ago. Within hours, the finding leaked to academic circles. Within days, Egyptologists around the world were scrambling to explain how they'd gotten it wrong for an entire century. The most famous artifact in human history had been lying to us all along, and quantum imaging had just exposed the truth. But to understand why this single discovery sent shockwaves through the entire field of Egyptology, we need to go back. Back to where this mystery began. Back to a sealed doorway in the Valley of the Kings, and a discovery that would captivate the world for over a century. November 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter stood before a tomb that hadn't been opened in over 3,000 years. When he finally broke through, he found himself staring at an impossible treasure: golden chariots, jewel-encrusted thrones, statues of guardian gods standing watch in the darkness. And buried deep within the innermost of 3 nested coffins lay the object that would become the most recognized face on Earth: the golden death mask of King Tut. Here's the thing. This mask is genuinely breathtaking. It stands 21 inches tall and weighs over 22 pounds. That's heavier than a bowling ball, made entirely of solid gold. The face is inlaid with lapis lazuli around the eyes, bands of colored glass forming the iconic striped headdress. For the ancient Egyptians, this wasn't just decoration. It was sacred technology. They believed gold was literally the flesh of the gods. The mask's purpose was to protect the pharaoh's mummy and help his soul recognize its own body in the afterlife. Without it, his spirit could wander lost for eternity. On the back, a magic spell from the Book of the Dead is carved in hieroglyphs, providing extra protection for the dangerous journey to the underworld. For decades, the world celebrated this mask as a flawless masterpiece, the ultimate symbol of ancient Egypt's golden age. But almost immediately, experts noticed details that didn't add up. And get this, the clues were hiding in plain sight the entire time. Nobody was ready for what they revealed. First, there was the problem of time. King Tut died suddenly around age 19, most likely from an infection following a severe leg fracture. According to Egyptian religious law, a pharaoh had to be mummified and buried within exactly 70 days. Think about that for a second. 70 days to carve an entire tomb from solid rock, build 3 elaborate coffins, gather thousands of burial artifacts, and create this massive gold death mask from scratch. The math simply didn't work. It seemed physically impossible. The tomb itself screamed rush job. It was tiny, far smaller than any other royal burial chamber discovered in the Valley of the Kings. Some of the wall paintings looked unfinished, as if the artists had dropped their brushes mid-stroke and simply walked away. The massive stone sarcophagus was chipped at the corners, as if workers had to force it into the cramped space at the very last minute. Something was wrong here, very wrong. This is where it gets crazy. When researchers examined the treasures more closely, they found something deeply disturbing. Many objects in the tomb didn't appear to have been made for Tut at all. Statues bore faces that looked nothing like the young king. Pieces of jewelry seemed designed for a woman's body. And then experts took another hard look at the mask itself. The ears. That was the biggest red flag. The mask clearly shows pierced earlobes. But here's the deal. In ancient Egyptian culture, only children and women wore earrings. An adult male pharaoh, especially depicted on his sacred burial mask, would never be shown with pierced ears. It violated every known convention of royal imagery. Some scholars also pointed out that the face itself seemed strange. The features were delicate, almost feminine, and the gold of the face had a slightly different hue than the surrounding headdress, a bit more reddish, a bit off. A controversial theory began to take shape. What if the mask was never made for King Tut? What if, in the chaos of the 70-day deadline, panicked priests simply grabbed an existing mask made for someone else, hastily altered it, and placed it over the young pharaoh's mummy? This raised an even bigger question. If the mask wasn't originally Tut's, whose face had it been made for? All eyes turned to one of the most mysterious figures in ancient history, and her name would change everything. Queen Nefertiti, Tut's stepmother. After her husband Akhenaten died, she vanished completely from the historical record, gone without a trace. But some historians believe she didn't die at all. They think she became pharaoh herself, ruling Egypt under a different throne name. If true, she would have had her own royal burial mask prepared. And if Tut died suddenly with no mask ready, the priests might have simply taken hers. Let that sink in. It would explain everything: the pierced ears, the feminine features, the different colored gold. For decades, this Nefertiti theory was the hottest debate in Egyptology. But here's the catch. There was no way to prove it without potentially damaging the priceless mask, and nobody was willing to risk that. The mystery remained frozen in place, seemingly unsolvable. Then came 2014, and a disaster that would accidentally crack the case wide open. During routine cleaning at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, a worker accidentally snapped the mask's braided beard clean off. The beard itself was a powerful symbol of divinity, representing Tut's transformation into a god. And now it was lying on the floor. Museum. Staff panicked. Instead of calling in expert conservators, they tried to fix it themselves. They reached for epoxy, industrial strength adhesive, the kind you'd use to repair plumbing or fix a car engine. They globbed it on, stuck the beard back in place, and hoped nobody would notice. Everyone noticed. They had even smeared glue across the golden chin. Egypt's greatest treasure, which had survived completely intact for 3,300 years, had been damaged by hardware store adhesive. The backlash was immediate and brutal. The Egyptian government launched a formal investigation and assembled a team of international experts to repair the damage. Leading the effort was a German conservator named Christian Ekman. His mission was to undo the mess and restore the mask properly. But Ekman realized something else. This disaster was also an unprecedented scientific opportunity. Before reattaching the beard, he could finally study the mask with modern technology and put the Nefertiti theory to rest once and for all. If you want to see how this mystery finally gets solved, make sure you're subscribed. Because what the quantum scanner found next changes everything we thought we knew. Ekman's team used high-resolution X-ray fluorescence scanning. The technique fires X-rays at an object and reads the chemical fingerprint of the materials inside. If the face had been cut from another mask and replaced, the XRF scan would reveal it. Different gold alloys would show up. Solder marks would appear. Seams would become visible. The team spent months scanning every square inch of the mask. The results seemed conclusive. Ekman announced that the mask showed no signs of alteration whatsoever. The gold in the face matched the gold in the headdress perfectly. The hieroglyphs spelling Tutankhamun's name appeared to be completely original, and crucially, the delicate blue glass around the eyes was pristine. If someone had soldered a new face onto the mask, the extreme heat required would have cracked that glass instantly. The Egyptology community exhaled. Relief flooded through museums and universities around the world. The mask was authentic, made as a single unified piece specifically for King Tut. Case closed. Ekman's team carefully removed the epoxy and reattached the beard using beeswax, the same natural adhesive the ancient Egyptians would have used. The mask was whole again. The mystery was finally over. But it's not that simple, though. A small group of physicists and Egyptologists refused to accept it. The 70-day timeline still made no sense. The tiny tomb, the recycled coffins, the feminine features, and that explanation about the pierced ears felt weak. A loose thread in an otherwise tidy story. These skeptics argued that the problem wasn't Ekman's data, it was his technology. X-rays are excellent at detecting density differences. They can spot cracks and identify different metals. But what if the ancient artisans were far more sophisticated than anyone imagined? What if they used the exact same gold alloy to fill the ear holes? What if they hammered the original name completely flat before recarving, adding no new metal? What if they attached a replacement face with such precision that the seams were microscopically invisible? Standard X-rays would see all of this as one solid, uniform object. They cannot read the thermal history of metal. They cannot tell if one section was reheated while another remained untouched. But the technology that could finally expose the truth didn't exist yet. Until 2024. Quantum resonance imaging. Unlike traditional scanning, it doesn't just take a picture. It fires a beam of controlled quantum particles at an object. These particles interact with individual atoms, like microscopic sonar. By analyzing the atomic echoes, the machine builds a three-dimensional map, not just of the material, but of its molecular structure and complete thermal history. It can distinguish between metal that was poured and cooled once versus metal that was cooled, reheated, hammered, and cooled again. It can detect a seam only a few atoms thick. A research team operating under the codename Project Osiris secured permission from the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities. This was supposed to be a simple technology test. Lead physicist Dr. Marcus Chen later admitted he expected to confirm Ekman's findings and go home. After the Grand Egyptian Museum closed for the night, they wheeled in the massive quantum scanner. For hours, the only sound was the low hum of the machine mapping the mask, one atomic layer at a time. Chen watched the data stream onto his laptop, confirmation after confirmation, everything matching Ekman's results. Then the scanner focused on the cartouche, the royal oval containing Tut's name. Chen's coffee cup slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. Behind him, someone whispered something in Arabic. A technician's hands trembled over her keyboard. The room went completely silent. The quantum scan didn't just challenge the previous findings, it demolished them. Around the edge of the mask's face, the scan detected thermal ghosting, a molecular signature showing that the gold in that precise outline had been heated to a different temperature than the surrounding headdress. Ekman was right that front-facing soul ring would have cracked the glass, but the ancient craftsmen hadn't worked from the front. They attached the replacement face from behind using high-pressure heating that left the exterior flawless. X-rays missed it completely. The quantum scan saw the molecular stress hiding beneath the surface. The face had been cut out and replaced. And get this, the scan of the earlobes was even more damning. Where X-rays showed solid gold, the quantum imager found two perfect cylindrical plugs. The original pierced holes had been filled with rods of identical gold alloy, then hammered and polished with such mastery that the seams became invisible. But quantum imaging detected the difference in the metal's grain structure. The ears had been plugged, deliberately, skillfully, and secretly. But the discovery that shook the entire team was still loading. The quantum scan analyzed atomic displacement beneath the cartouche. It found that the gold had been hammered, flattened, and scraped in a way no other part of the mask had been. An original inscription had been beaten into oblivion. But by mapping the microscopic traces of the original hammering, the computer could digitally reconstruct what had once been there. Dr. Chen ran the program. Everyone gathered around the screen. A hieroglyph slowly materialized, letter by letter. It was not Tutankhamun. The name was Nefertiti. Someone in the room gasped. Another researcher had to sit down. Because Nefertiti is the throne name historians believe Nefertiti used when she became pharaoh. The theory wasn't just plausible anymore. It was proven, carved into the atomic structure of the gold itself. The quantum scan revealed everything. Every desperate decision, every panicked shortcut, every lie carved into gold. When King Tut died unexpectedly, no burial mask existed for him. His powerful successor A likely claimed Tut's intended grand tomb for himself. Facing the sacred 70-day deadline, panicked priests seized the burial mask of the previous pharaoh, Nefertiti. They worked frantically, plugged her pierced ears with matching gold, commissioned a new face bearing the boy king's features, cut out Nefertiti's original face and attached Tut's in its place, and finally hammered her royal name flat and recarved his over the ghostly remains. The deception worked for 3,300 years. But here's what keeps researchers up at night. If they altered the mask, what else did they change? The coffins, the jewelry, the statues. How much of Tut's tomb actually belonged to Tut? And if the most studied artifact in human history was hiding this secret, what about other treasures in museums around the world? The mask now sits in the Grand Egyptian Museum. Millions admire it every year, seeing King Tut's face. But we know the truth now. That face wears someone else's crown, a powerful queen, erased from history by priests who thought no one would ever find out. They were almost right. So, here's the question that haunts me. If they lied about the most famous artifact in human history, if they succeeded for 3 millennia, what else is hiding in plain sight? Drop your theory in the comments. And if you want more secrets from history exposed, hit subscribe. We're just getting started.